Hi, my name is Robert Graham. I am an internal and integrative medicine physician who studied at Harvard Medical School for both my integrative medicine and my master's in public health. And today, I am leaving this office and going to culinary school to become a chef as well. In fact, I never thought of doing something differently. I was raised by a mother who is a traditional healer and my father who is trained in biochemistry. So I grew up in this model of care there that in one hand, I'm doing the conventional medical way, and the other way, we're doing more the holistic health. And I knew I wanted to be that type of doctor. Unfortunately, when I was going through medical school, that wasn't taught. So I had to go on my own journey to find this evolving field called integrative medicine, or back then was called complementary alternative medicine. And I was fortunate enough to be the third ever fellow at Harvard Medical School learning this emerging field. My mother, who would give us herbs and food-based therapies, and my father would want to give us Tylenol or Advil. Mom always knows what's right, so we always defaulted to what mom gave us. Slowly, my father started realizing that what my mom was doing was slowly giving us food as medicine, by giving us medicine through food. I was raised in a community of Jackson Heights in Queens, New York, where the multitude of cultures comes to be. You don't have to leave Jackson Heights to visit the world comes to Jackson Heights. There was Chinese people, there were Indian people, there were Thai people, so for me, understanding their beliefs around health really influenced my decision to be this integrative medicine physician. So unfortunately, what we have today is a sad state of affairs in our medical training, because if you look on the opposite side of it, right? So we become doctors to preserve health and well-being. And we know through many, many years of both studies and literature and just life lessons that the safest, most effective, most sustainable way to health and well-being is through how we eat, how we relax, how we exercise, how we sleep, and how we find happiness, or our pursuit of happiness. That's why we started this model called FRESH, right? It's an acronym for those 5 pillars of well-being. Unfortunately, in medical school, we don't learn about self-care at all. In fact, one of the things I'm actually fighting to do is bring more self-care into healthcare, because that is how it starts. You have to take care of oneself, because you can't expect another person and or a doctor to be the person that will save you from illness. You have to save yourself. Yeah, so Fresh Med, again, it's the 5 pillars of well-being. After spending 15 years doing medicine, and again, I've always done integrative primary care. So I have given, and I still continue to give antibiotics when it's needed. I still prescribe metformin. I still prescribe cholesterol medications for people who have heart disease as secondary prevention. And so I never put away my prescription pad because it is needed. And I think what we have to find is this balance. And this is why I started Fresh Med. Fresh Med is an integrative medical practice which includes our 5 pillars of well-being. Every single patient that comes to our office has to be assessed by what food they eat, the F, how they relax, the R, how they exercise, the E, how they are sleeping, the S, and how and why they get up in the morning or find happiness. And I feel like those 5 pillars of well-being are so important for overall health and well-being that you can't ignore them in medicine. Because I have found that if we address those 5 pillars first, medicine is of less or no need. Again, my mom was the first woman in my life that fed us medicine through food. It really taught us the importance of eating your medicine through food, not through supplements, which we do use here, but as a supplement to a good diet. Unfortunately, most people don't eat a well-balanced diet, so therefore we have to supplement it. But then it really was through medical school where I am there doing my 36-hour shifts, not sleeping, not eating well, gaining a lot of weight, just being unhealthy, but yet I have to give of myself to take care of others. And my wife, we've been together for 22 years, saw me deteriorate. and said to me, once I get out of this, what I call archaic environment of medical education, I will devote myself, and we have devoted ourselves to increase the well-being of healthcare practitioners. And so it's been my mission really to help them so they can help others. And so one of the things that we've actually implemented is, for the past 7 years, we've taken doctors into a kitchen, the Natural Gourmet Institute, where I'm now becoming a chef, to teach them the principles of healthy, whole food, plant-based diets on Mondays, because we support Meatless Mondays as a movement, because we feel that if the less meat you eat is both good for you and for the environment. We also feel that stress is killing us. It's an everyday fact, but we have to learn the tools to reduce the amount of stress and our reaction to stressors. So therefore, we have taught doctors and nurses and healthcare providers, practitioners, the importance of tapping into your relaxation response and learning how to meditate. And it doesn't have to be in yoga, it doesn't have to be in lotus position. It can be through anything you do: gardening, cooking, being with family, listening to music, walking outside. And so we host walking tours, meditation, yoga classes for healthcare providers. Then the biggest thing happened to us. We started realizing that the paradigm of we're feeding patients the exact foods which lead them into our hospitals, in our hospitals. So we're serving them bad food, unhealthy food in our hospitals. So we had this great idea: why don't we grow our own stuff? So a couple years ago, we developed a rooftop garden called Victory Greens on top of Lenox Hill Hospital, so we can actually feed our patients and our employees the fruits of our labor from our rooftop organic garden, where we grew vegetables, herbs, and spices, so that we can actually feed our patients and our staff in our hospitals. One of the constraints we have in New York City is there's never enough space. And so we saw this abandoned rooftop, and we decided, why don't we grow our own food on there? Again, we wanted to introduce more holistic therapies to our healthcare practitioners. So we ended up hosting rooftop yoga and meditation classes up on the roof. And it's been a huge success, because we not only feed the bodies and minds of our healthcare practitioners through a very simple garden. Many hospitals have reached out to me, and we're starting to see rooftop gardens happen in cities. The challenge we have in New York is that we just don't have a lot of space on the ground to grow, so we hashtag grow up, and we're utilizing, hopefully in the next couple of years, multiple rooftop gardens in different locations. We're seeing, like Google has its rooftop garden, Vice has its rooftop garden, so you're starting to see this kind of percolate. In fact, I've consulted with companies and hospitals in California, Indiana, and Arizona on how to develop rooftop gardens in hospitals. So starting something brand new in an old system is very challenging. It has to have the right team, the right time, and the right amount of money. For about a year and a half, we had to find people with similar ideas and mission. It took engineering, it took administration, it took an urban farmer, it had to take some philanthropy. We had to raise our own money so that we can actually support it. Once we proved that this could happen, then we had to make it happen. And that's when we had, again, it's a team effort. We had to get people involved every single step. We had to get administration. We had to get security. We had to get farming. We had to get engineering. We had to get electrical. We had to get all the people involved, because they believed that something needed to grow up there. And ultimately, what we needed was the funding, which came through as well. So we had the right time, the right people, and the right amount of money. And again, I think looking bigger, we had to have the right mission and vision. And it was just, again, a perfect storm that allowed us to open the doors in an abandoned rooftop and open up a beautiful garden. What I think I'm most proud of is that it is, despite me leaving, it's still there, and it's still growing, and it's still feeding people minds, bodies, and souls. So it's really kind of a legacy that I think my wife and I have left for our healthcare providers in New York City, as a place they can disconnect to reconnect. When I was searching for understanding the history of medicine and why conventional allopathic Western medicine became the dominant paradigm in America, what happened? So during my fellowship in Boston at Harvard Medical School, I ended up staying there an additional year to do a fellowship in medical education. And I thought maybe that's where I would learn how medical education was formulated. And in fact, this is the book that I tell anyone that's interested in it. It's called Time to Heal: American Medical Education from the Turn of the Century to the Era of Managed Care by Kenneth Ludmire. And it tells the story of how holistic medicine or complementary therapies like acupuncture and homeopathy were pushed to the side because of very wealthy families in America, like the Carnegies, like the Rockefellers, and others that supported the teaching of a conventional medical way of doing it. Until 1910, I believe, when the Flexner Report came out, which really was the turning point of medical education, and tried to make the other types of medicine marginalized. And conventional medicine became the major paradigm, which is still there today. And we're still fighting this idea of integration of complementary medicine into conventional medicine. And slowly, and yet ever so slowly, through pioneers like Andrew Weil, David Eisenberg, Ted Kaptchuk, who are my mentors, has now led to a field of integrative medicine, which now has a board certification, which again, we're slowly moving towards this truly holistic way, or I call it modern medicine combined with ancient wisdom. You know, it's one of those questions I get asked a lot. How do we know it's safe and effective and evidence-based? And I think, you know, one of the challenges that we have in this world of integrative medicine is deciphering that, right? Deciphering who's selling snake oil, right, and promising the miracle cure versus someone that looks more holistically at you. And I think one of the things that we're slowly moving towards is, I think, having a board certification in a field like integrative medicine, I think is an important first step, because you're going to ask for that when you go see a physician who does integrative medicine. I think the field like functional medicine, who are offering certificate courses, at least there's something there now. Not to say that there are certain miraculous, wonderful healers are out there that don't have it. But I think there always should be this kind of barometer of safety that conventional medicine requires. And for me, I wear my white lab coat in my practice here amongst my chiropractors and acupuncturists and nutritionists and aromatherapists and yoga teachers and meditation teachers, because again, it's a constant reminder of what my level of safe, effective, evidence-based treatment should be. I just don't feel that it should be alternative medicine, it should be complementary. And how to integrate that into the conventional medical model is the future of medicine, because our patients want it. And so we unfortunately have to have this board certification to prove that we know what we are prescribing to our patients is, again, safe, effective, and evidence-based. So the American Board of Physician Specialties is granting board certification in integrative medicine. There is the American Board of Holistic Medicine, which was the first step, which I took back in 2005. That has evolved now into the American Board of Integrative Medicine. So you have to go through the conventional medical training, a residency, and in some cases like myself, a fellowship to sit for the board. And so there is a level of competency that I think patients should feel very comfortable with seeing a board certified integrative medicine physician. You know, when I was in medical school, I was always fascinated by what Bobby Singh's dad did, was the Ayurvedic. I was always very interested in what Brian Lee's dad did too, the kind of acupuncture, acupressure. Interested in my mom's form of healing of putting food as medicine, the culinary arts, and how traditionally, the father of medicine, Hippocrates, said, "Let food be thy medicine, medicine be thy food." I'm just a new messenger of this, and I was always wanted to find formal training in it. And unfortunately, during that time in medical school in the late 90s, early 2000s, there wasn't any. So I helped formulate the first ever integrative medicine, complementary and alternative medicine elective for medical students at Stony Brook. That led to this whole discovery of these alternative or complementary healers on Long Island, where I went to medical school. I had the great fortune of being the third ever fellow in this new, amazing fellowship in complementary and integrative therapies at Harvard Medical School, where my mentor, again, David Eisenberg, Russ Phillips, and Ted Kapchuk, were really the pioneers of the first studies of complementary medicine, which showed that consistently for the past 20 years, roughly anywhere between 33 to 65% of people use some sort of complementary and alternative medicine in conjunction with Western medicine. So it was an amazing opportunity for me to be, in the midst of these giants at Harvard Medical School, while obtaining a master's in public health, where I met my nutrition mentor, Dr. Walter Willett, and learning about the research behind food, learning the research behind acupuncture, chiropractor, when it's useful, when it's not useful, and really trying to formulate the National Institutes of Health strategic plan for the new emerging center of complementary and alternative medicine. So at that point, it was called the National Center for Complementary and Alternative Medicine, part of the NIH, and we would help draft a 5-year strategic plan, trying to understand how to integrate both the art and science and research of these therapies within the conventional medical setting. So for me, it was like an eye-opening experience. I was learning about meditation from Herbert Benson, John Kabat-Zinn, seeing these studies that monks are getting MRIs, being at that forefront of this evolving research, where I thought we needed that to have this intelligent conversation about the clinical utility of integrative medicine today, 2017. The last 7 to 10 years, I kind of shifted my focus, and I think the story that I told at TEDx Manhattan, is really one doctor's food revolution, right? Or one doctor's food fight. Because again, the majority of things that are killing us in today's society, right, are reversible chronic diseases. Things like heart disease, diabetes, obesity, hypertension, to a certain extent, cancer. And I think if we don't put more focus on lifestyle as medicine, and in my opinion, our food is what's killing us. Slowly, every day, you get the opportunity to make a decision about what you're putting in your mouth. And either could help fight disease or feed disease. And for me, that's why I have taught doctors, patients, chefs, anyone that wants to come cooking with me, take them out of the hospital and into a kitchen to teach them how to cook. People that cook live longer, healthier, happier lives. That doesn't mean that everyone has to cook. But I think we should understand this connection between food and health. And I'm really proud to be, now a chef in training at the Natural Gourmet, where Anne-Marie Coleman, who started this tiny little school 40 years ago, who, really, I say there's 3 women that really influenced my life. It's my mother, my wife, and Anne-Marie, because the way she had this ability to look into the future 40 years ago to establish a connection between food and health is front and center now. The other thing is that I think through my understanding of research, I appreciate the difficulty of developing study protocols where we try to use an individual-based approach, which is very hard to study. And conventional research tries to control for all other factors, which we call life, so therefore that pill could be like the miracle pill. So I'm just trying to change this food discussion. So by cooking our own food, teaching about food, learning about food, growing our own food, I'm trying to just kind of bring attention to this, the importance of that food can be medicine. And I think we should be, like what we do here at Fresh, we have a food first approach. For me, it's easy. If you can't afford organic, I choose organic. And if you have to make a choice, you know, the environmental working group, the Dirty Dozen, Clean 15, simple ways, choose organic when they are the Dirty Dozen. Strawberries. I choose not to put pesticides, antibiotics, herbicides on what I eat. And it's a choice, right? So I choose to spend my money on organics. I think it's hard to prove a smoking gun, right? But in public health, we learn about the precautionary principle. Precautionary principle is a simple principle. The burden of proof doesn't have to be there 100% for you to make the changes. So that's what I use. So maybe it's not as bad for us as we think today. But what if we're wrong? So I, again, use the precautionary principle and make those choices. So you go through a very thorough intake. It is about 13 pages. And you'll get, you know, your past medical history, your allergies, your medications, your surgery, family history, social history. But then the second part of it is the fresh intake. We will ask you a lot of questions about what, how, when, why you eat, the type of food you eat, why you eat them, how you prepare them, how you buy them. And then we go to relaxation, exercise, sleep, and happiness. We have a motto here that in health it all starts with food, but at the end of the day, all we really want to be is happy. And if you don't ask, patients won't tell. And through this very painful, and I admit it's a very long process in intake, we get a lot of information about you as a being, not just as a medical being. And so we'll address, how stressed are you? What do you do for stress reduction? Do you think that stress is contributing to your disease? How are you sleeping? How are you not sleeping? How do you fall asleep? How do you stay asleep? Are you sleeping during the day? You know, are you exercising? What type of exercising? Does it feed you? Does it make you tired? Does it make you... And happiness. I think, you know, working with my wife, who's our health coach here, who has an understanding of positive psychology, which is a scientific study of human flourishing, I think it's really kind of opened our eyes to a new model of healthcare, because a doctor can't do it alone, and we all need coaches. And I think the use of a health coach in a conventional medical setting just allows for accountability, encouragement, and support through the process of changing someone's life through the Fresh model. I'm a doc. There is a clinical nutritionist, Michelle Miller here, who, you know, is a functional nutritionist as well. So she will dissect your diet, your food plans, and is very well versed in supplements as well. We do detoxes here, we do weight loss programs here. And then Julie, really, I think as a health coach, meditation teacher, acts as a support system for our patients. So most of our patients see all of us individually, and you can enter it through just Michelle, our clinical nutritionist. You can enter it through just Julie, learning more stress reduction techniques for this ever emerging epidemic of anxiety and depression. We do a lot of evaluation of the microbiome. Again, what I would love to do is set the trend of the future of medicine, and I think a lot of it has to do with our gut health. And our gut health is so dependent on both our emotional, spiritual, but also dietary resources that we put into our bodies. So it's kind of flipping the script on the conventional medical model. It's interesting, we changed this paradigm of work-life balance to shift it to a life-work balance. So identify the life you want to live and find work that supports it. And once you do that, that you put your life in front of your work, or you make your work part of your life. It sounds cliche, but you never feel like you're working. There are challenges because we work so closely together, but we look at those challenges as potential avenues of communication and trying to identify why we are not jiving. But I would say, 22 years later, we jive 99% of the time. And if not, we're very great. We have a lot of gratitude for our relationship. So that's why we're starting to see more progressive companies like Google, some financial firms, introduce more of a holistic wellness program and offerings so that their patients don't have to utilize the healthcare system, because that is just growing unsustainably and it will probably bankrupt us if we don't do something about it.